my best friend at the time, well, he's transitioned since, but her girlfriend at the time, I remember one day we were just sitting chilling in the living room, and I asked him, I was like, do you ever feel like you're in the wrong body? And because he gave off a lot of masculine energy. So I just kind of was like, do you feel like you're in the wrong body? And like immediately he said yes. And I was like, me too. But that was just kind of the end of the conversation. I didn't really go past that. And
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm so happy you came by. The Queerly Blax Show aims to normalize the everyday existence of Black, LGBTQIA+ individuals through an interview-style series with regular folks like you and me. So every week, a new guest shares their story and unique perspective on their existence as an LGBTQIA+ individual. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you subscribe, download, set your reminders to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley, joined today by a very special guest. We got Mo in the building. Mo, tell the people about yourself.
Shoot, I am 32 years old. Sometimes I got to think about it. You know, I feel like after 30s, you really got to
You just
think.
be like, what year was I born?
Together. But 32, from Dallas. I recently moved out to the outskirts of Houston, so adjusting to that. I don't really know. I started transitioning in 2018. I am a transgender male. I don't really have. I don't. You put me on the spot. I don't know.
That's
I don't
good
really know.
enough. That's good.
Yeah, that's me in a nutshell, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So you say you just moved to Houston or Dallas? Houston? How's that been?
It's been good. It's been good. I moved in with a couple of friends,
Okay.
so just getting adjusted. And I really actually love Houston. I'm actually like 30 minutes outside of Houston, but I be in Houston like almost every weekend. So, but I really do. I feel like it's more fast paced than Dallas is.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy it.
Yeah. So it's really like a big difference between like, because Dallas and Houston are like two of the bigger like metro areas in Texas. So it's like a big difference between the two.
It is, and I say what's the way I want to say this? It's more. I feel like Houston is more culturally aware, more urban than Dallas is. I feel like since Dallas is closer to Oklahoma, they're more whitewashed, if you will. But out here in Houston, is they just have a lot more going, and it's a lot more culturally aware. I'll just say that it's a lot more Black people out here. So
that's what's up. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that it definitely feels better.
It does.
You're around your own people.
Yeah.
Yeah, dope, man. All right, cool, man. Well, look, you know how we do over here. We got to start all the way at the beginning.
Okay.
So, obviously being a transgender person, your journey, there's a few things that, you experience, right? So what was the first time that you felt like you were different, whether it was that you liked a different sex than like other people, or like you kind of felt like, well, the girls are doing this, but I don't really want to do that. Like, what was the process for you going all the way back to the beginning?
Back to the beginning, there's some transgender males, I feel like they'll always be like, I knew from like when I was like young that I knew that I was transgender. I wasn't even aware that transgender was a thing until I was like in high school, and even then I only knew it to be to where you can transition from male to female, because I had seen it. Like there's this one season of Real World that had this transgender woman on there. That's the first one. I don't know if you used to watch it.
Oh yeah, I love Real World.
And so that's the first time I had ever.
What's her name? I forgot.
I think it was Kate. It's something with a K. What? But that's the first time I had seen somebody transgender, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that. So, and I totally wasn't aware that you could transition
to female to male.
Transition from female to male. So, but I can remember being like a child and always wishing that I was a boy or I could do boy things. Like I remember when I was young, I used to want to wear my shirt off, and I couldn't understand like why they can wear their shirts off, but I can't, or why boys can do certain things, but I'm not supposed to do it. Or yeah, just different things. Like even like my
Mhm.
grandmother would say, "Oh, I used to hate to sing." She used to tell me, "Little girls ought to be seen and not heard." And I was like, "Well, I want to
Mhm.
be heard. I don't want to just be seen. I want to be seen and heard." And so I can remember just little things like that, just kind of. But I just thought I was a tomboy. I just thought I was gay, you know. So it was it again. I wasn't aware that you could do that, but so I can say when I was young, I felt like I was different, but I didn't really know where to place those feelings of being different, if that makes sense, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. So like how was, normal like childhood dating, like, kind of having your crushes and like, things like that for you? How was that going through like, middle high school, into your early adulthood? How was that process?
Well, I can remember being like in preschool and having a crush on like a fifth grade girl. Like I remember not really being interested in boys. Now I had little boyfriends here and there, especially like in middle school and high school, and I tried it, but I was always kind of standoffish towards them. It would be kind of, and it's the weirdest thing because it was like the more I would be standoffish or be distant, it's like the more the guys wanted me, and it was a turn off to me. But I can remember being very very young and having my first crush on a fifth grade girl, and just kind of dealing with those emotions. And then when I got now, of course, like when you're in elementary school, you're not really dating seriously, or you're not
Right.
really thinking
It's like,
about
you
that.
want to be
So
my boyfriend? You want to be my
yeah, it's
girlfriend?
kind of
With a
like,
little
yeah,
note.
that little stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
But once we got in middle school, it got to be a little bit more serious, and I started to take my feelings for the opposite or the same sex at the time
Hmm.
a little bit more seriously. And I was very afraid to say it or to even come out or to tell my friends because I didn't want them to look at me different or whatever have you. But I ended up coming out in middle school, and I even told my mom in middle school, and she didn't take to it too well at first.
Hmm.
And she was like, you're going to hell, right? And so that was one of the
Hmm.
first things that she told me. And I was like, and we didn't really speak about it until I want to say my senior year in high school. So in between all the time, I did have girlfriends. Like I had a high school sweetheart. Well, I had like two. I started dating this one girl in my very first girlfriend in freshman year of high school. And then I started dating somebody else, my other high school sweetheart, like in sophomore year. And so I was pretty on and off with them for the most part during high school. And then in high school, like I said, in my senior year, me and my mom had a sit down talk, like a real heart to heart. And she was like, it just what did she say? She was kind of like, it took me some time to get used to it or to um get acclimated. She's like, but just seeing you and seeing how you are, like I no longer believe like you're going to hell. I don't think that gay people are going to hell or whatever. So it really started to open up her mind, and that made me feel a whole lot better. And we really had a great relationship since. Like I've always had a pretty good relationship with my mom, but as far as like my orientation or whatever have you,
Yeah.
like that was smoothed over once we had that talk. But so I guess in a nutshell, to answer your question, dating growing up, it was a rocky road, but but yeah, it was what it was.
When you coming out at this point, is this coming out as in coming out and saying that you wanted to transition, or coming out and saying that you like girls?
Coming out saying I like girls.
Okay.
Now, I didn't realize that I wanted to transition probably until I was like 25, 26. And
Hmm.
then I didn't start transitioning until I was 27.
Hmm.
So yeah, and that was a whole even coming to terms with the fact that I wanted to transition, that was a process in itself. Because at first I just thought I was, what do they call it? I think it's trans masculine, where you just identify with male aspects or male
Hmm.
attributes, but you don't necessarily feel like you're a man. And
Yeah.
at first I was like, okay, well, maybe that's me, maybe that's it. But then it kind of started to feel like that just didn't sit well. And then once I had an acquaintance at the time who was talking about their coming out and they're transitioning. And I was like, that's the first time I realized that female to male could happen. I was like, oh, that can be a thing.
Hmm.
And so once I started looking into it and researching and for myself, but I was like, I can never do that though. Like people would think I'm crazy. Like my family would think I'm crazy. Like what are people gonna think? Like that's
Hmm.
that's just that's mind blowing to me. So I kind of put it on the back burner for a couple of years until I had a friend of mine, my best friend at the time, her now, well, he's transitioned since, but her girlfriend at the time, I remember one day we were just sitting chilling in the living room, and I just kind of asked him, I was like, "Do you ever feel like you're in the wrong body?" And because he gave off a lot of masculine energy, so I just kind of was like, "Do you feel like you're in the wrong body?" And like immediately he said yes, and I was like, "Me too." But that was just kind of the end of the conversation. It didn't really go past that, and I was just kind of like, hmm. But it kind of made me feel good that somebody else felt the same way
Yeah,
I did, even
yeah,
if I didn't act on my, what I wanted to do. But I was just kind of like, well, that gave me some solace that he felt the same. But I started to see him start to transition himself, and I was like, I want to do that. Like I want to get out there and do that. And again, I was real scared. I was real scared to do it, but what made the defining factor for me, I remember one night I was talking to one of my cousins, and she was like, and I was telling her, I was like, I've been thinking about it. I kind of want to, but I'm scared of what people gonna think. I don't know. And she was like, you know what, cuz you're gonna be miserable for the rest of your life trying to make other people happy.
amen.
I said, damn,
That's right.
you right. So I was like, you right. And it's funny because my girlfriend at the time, when I had told her, she was like, I don't want to be with a man. Like that's not what I want. Nah, that's not my steez. And so I also put it on the back burner for her too, because I was like, I
Hmm.
really love her. I want to keep her. I don't want to lose her. So let me just kind of put this on the back burner. But it ended up that she ended up leaving me. And at first I was devastated and all that other kind of mess. But
Hmm.
once I kind of started to get over it, I was like, well, you know what? I might as well transition because now I'm free to do what I want to do. I don't have anybody in my ear saying, well, that's not what I really want. So I was like, you know what? My cousin was right. I can't be spending my life just trying to make everybody else happy. Let me see where this takes me. And
Hmm.
I got my went to see I go to Planned Parenthood to get my testosterone. And so I made an appointment at Planned Parenthood. They do what's called informed consent, where they just you don't necessarily because a lot of times, especially before you would need like a doctor's note, a year of therapy, and all this stuff in order to and all these requirements in order to get testosterone. Um, but with Planned Parenthood, they just do informed consent, which is where they just tell you what the possible side effects can be. You're of sound mind and of age to say that I I'm aware of the side effects, but I'm willing to take the risk, and they prescribe it to you. So I got my prescription. I sat on it for about a month or two before I even took it. But the first day I took that shot, that's like one of the happiest days of my life. Like I felt different. Even though none of the changes had taken place yet. It wasn't like anything was different just then, but I felt different. I felt freer. So yeah, that's kind of how that went.
Nice. So just to kind of go back a little bit to help people with the mindset, right? Because I think the you were talking about it with your friend and like the parts of your friend that were like giving off this like masculine energy that was above like a tomboy or like a stud or like
Yeah.
a really masculine woman. It was like something
Mhm.
further than that, right? But talk
Right.
about your own internal experience of like why it's different, like the feeling like you're in the wrong body is different than anything else, right? Like walk
Mhm.
like talk about just kind of how that felt for you and why, why it wouldn't be that, oh, I just need to dress like a boy, right? Like it's further than just like the physical, right? Like talk
Mhm.
about that.
For me, the mindset, it's kind of like how I explained. Uh, it's kind of similar to how I explained it to my mom whenever I was telling her that I want to transition. It was kind of like, some some women look at men and they find them attractive or whatever have you. And it's like that's where their mindset goes. I said, when I look at a man, I'm looking at, oh, I wish I could be him. It wasn't like
Hmm.
a
It's
I
like an
want to be like
idealization.
him. Yeah, it was
Hmm.
like idealization. It's
Hmm.
not that I just want to be like you. I wanted to be you. And I just noticed how it felt whenever I was referred to as, because sometimes, like even with studs, like you can get called boy
Yeah, all the
sometimes
time.
because
Yeah, or he or
different,
Mr.
or
Sir.
he or Mister or
Hmm.
stuff like that. Like for me, that felt like validating. That felt
Hmm.
good to me whenever people would do those or misgender me in back then to say I was a boy or attribute me to having or manly ways or just things like that. That was validating for me. That felt good to me. Like
Hmm.
I hated being seen as a woman or being seen as that. That's just how it felt different for me. Just the
Yeah.
validation from things, the validation from
Male associations.
male association.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like kind of almost like the disdain for women associations. Like it's like I don't want to be associated with these things.
Right,
Like these
right.
don't feel like who I am. They don't feel
Mhm,
comfortable for me. Yeah, no, that
exactly.
makes that makes sense for me. So for you, um, was did you ever but prior to transitioning with your prior to your testosterone journey, did you start having people refer to you as he, or did that kind of come after? Like what was your order of like, because there's like so many different things, and I talked to Jay a while back about just like the spectrum of transitioning. Like there's no such thing as like fully transitioned, right? It's like for every single person the level of transitioning is different. Like it's for some people just changing their name and people calling them either he or she depending on which transition you're having is enough. And then for some
Mhm.
people it's like the physical manifestation, and then some it's the anatomy, and for some it's all the levels, right? So talk about just for you like what those things were.
With the different levels, as far as like my pronouns or wanting to be referred to as he, I tried it out. I first tried it out on my ex, and she wasn't really good with that. And this was the ex who said, I don't want to be with a man or whatever. And so I kind of told her, I was like, I would like to be referred to as he or whatever. And she would try from time to time, but she wasn't really with it or whatever. But then after we broke up and I started to when I started to think about transitioning, I had told one of my best friends at the time, and she like from the moment I told her that's what I wanted to be referred to as, she was on it. Like she referred to me, and that also made me feel good. I was it was like a sign, like okay, this is going in the right direction because
Hmm.
this makes me feel good. So I just tried it out on like her, and I want to say really it was only her who I told and who I was really like, hey, I want you to refer to me as he. So that was the first person who really started to do it. And then I told people at work when I want to say like my first month in or like like my first month in on testosterone. I told people at work, and just so they can start to get acclimated. Hey, if you start to see these changes, this is what I'm going through. I would prefer if you refer to me as he or him. And I exposed my family to it, and everybody. It took people some time to get with. There's some people in my life who, from the moment I told them, they were on it, like my best friend at the time. There are other people who it kind of, took some time to
Yeah.
acclimate, because I always say that when you're transitioning, you're also, everybody around you is transitioning as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
They're
Hmm.
having to, get used to and acclimated to this new you. Um, and then there are other people who still struggle with it. So, but that's kind of how the process for me kind of went as far as my pronouns go.
Yeah.
Um, and as far as feeling fully transitioned, I feel like dysphoria, it it's a monster that kind of evolves and grows on its own, because
Yeah.
I feel like in the beginning stages I was so worried about, oh, I want to be referred to as he, I'm ready to see the physical changes as far as like hair and um my voice changing and stuff like that. I was worried about that. So once those things started to come, I kind of felt like then I was focused on my chest. Like I'm ready to get my chest off. Like it was the dysphoria was centered around my breast, and just I hated. I can't tell you how much I hated having those things, like having my chest and getting that removed. And I wasn't so concerned with my downstairs anatomy. I was like, I can do without a dick. I don't need that. Like I'm cool.
Mhm. Right.
I just want my chest off. But then once I got my mastectomy, got my chest off, now the dysphoria has now moved towards I do want a penis, and I
Hmm.
do plan. It's just that surgery is very it's a surgery with a lot more complications
Hmm.
and a lot more risk. So I'm kind of trying to bide my time to see exactly when I want to, but I do know I've come to a decision that that is something that I do want. But that hadn't always, that desire hadn't always been there. So like
Hmm.
I said, the dysphoria kind of, it evolves on its own, and it kind of like it focuses. It's like once you take care of one thing, it's like, oh,
Next thing,
let's jump
yeah.
to this thing now, you
Yeah.
know. But that's not to say there are some guys who never have the desire to have one, or never, you know, there are some guys who don't have the desire to get their breasts removed. It just depends on the person, you know. But for me, that's how my dysphoria and how my progress kind of went.
Yeah. How'd you feel like when like you start seeing like the physical changes start coming, and you're like, okay, like you have like a lot of guys don't keep the facial hair, like some will, like, you know, some will grow it and like some won't keep it, but you have you know, your nice beard and everything like that. How did you feel like when it first started coming in, or like your
Man,
voice? Was
I
it
feel
like
like the
crazy for
shit.
you? Did you notice it?
Yeah, because it's like when you first doing it, you looking. It's like I was always
Yeah.
looking for my, because I had my little 5 o'clock shadow, and I was like, oh, it's coming in, and I'm, you know, like, and looking back on pictures now, it's funny because I saw a lot of change back then, but looking back on now, it's like it really wasn't that much of a difference.
Hmm.
But it it was invigorating me. Like I feel like the shit. I was like, I'm
Hmm.
starting to get here. Like, yeah, like I'm, you know, it was, I felt like I fell in love with myself. I can
Yeah.
honestly say that. Like now when I look in the mirror, like I truly adore, aside from the gain weight that I've gotten, I really want to get in shape. But aside from that, I love what I see when I look in the mirror. As opposed to where I didn't used to love myself. I didn't used to love what I saw in the mirror. So just
Yeah.
seeing that facial hair come in and all that stuff, that was, it was the best thing ever to me, you know?
Yeah, and that's the goal for everybody, is like
Right.
falling in love with yourself. I feel like that's the perfect like way to put it, is like doing whatever you have to do to get to that place where you could be like, Damn, I really love myself." You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like the world would be such a better place if we could all, you know,
Love myself.
remove our fear and get to that place. So
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
that's dope. So what does life look like for you now? Obviously, you know, you talk about, you know, some of the things that you still want to do, but you know, I think at this point, what does life look like for you now, whether it be dating, socially, um, how's life?
Uh, what life for me right now is trying to focus on me. I was recently engaged, recently in a relationship. I'm no longer in that relationship, and I can say that it's due to just certain things that I've got to mature on, certain things that I've got to get more emotional control, emotional intelligence. Just I've got to focus on me and just mature in certain areas that I you know, I realized through that relationship. So I'm thankful for that relationship to show me those things. So right now, it's like I'll talk to people here and there, or I'll talk to women here and there, but it's nothing really serious because right now I really do want to focus on me and just growing, and I want to make sure that I'm mentally prepared for the next time when I am in a relationship, whether it be with, because I, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I do still want the relationship that I was in, but if that doesn't pan out, I just want to make sure that I'm ready, whether it be for her, for the next woman, or whatever have you. So right now, it's just focusing on me and trying to implement certain things like meditation and working out and getting a good work-life balance. And so that's what life is looking for me right now. Just the, I want to say this is the year of me, and I want to try, and I told myself this year I want to try and start traveling more, because there's so many times in the past it's kind of been like, well, I want to do this or I want to do that, but it never really pans out, or you know, for one reason or the other, or I have an excuse for this or that. And I'm tired of giving excuses for
Yeah.
myself and for my life. And so I just said, you know, this year is just I want to be different. I told myself I want my 30s to be different than my 20s, because my 20s was an emotional roller coaster. And I feel like I want to be living in my prime in my 30s. So that's where I'm at right
That's what's up. Yeah, no, that's dope. Um, how much of an outlet has it been being like building a platform on social media, in terms of sharing yourself, sharing your story? You're super funny, like you do the skits and like
now.
talk about you know, taking like the different things that are kind of popular in terms of like trending trends or whatever on social media, and you know, making them relevant to yourself. how much of an outlet has that been, and how many, I'm sure you've probably built a community in terms of like people who have reached out and like, whether it be that they want to transition or that they're just queer, period, right? How much of an outlet has it been?
It has been a major outlet, especially with like the podcast and I need to get back on it. That's what I want to get back into podcasting and my YouTube channel and all that stuff. But it's been a major outlet, especially like in the beginning when I first started transitioning, because it was a lot of people who were like, you should share your story. Like you're a really good speaker. You need to, we want to hear you. You should talk. You should speak. So it's been, and just knowing that people want to hear my story, knowing that people are interested, or like you said, like if this could just touch one person, and that's like the goal. That was my goal. Like I just want to be able to touch one person to be like, hey, I saw, this or that, and it really inspired me to do this or inspired me to live my truth or whatever. So it's been just an amazing, it's been an outlet for not only myself, but I feel like for other people. I'll never forget, there was right before the pandemic hit, because I really want to be a public speaker. And right before the pandemic hit, I was doing these panels online. It was these panels. I was a part of a panel for a play. This transgender young man, he wrote a play, and it was about kind of like about his coming out story. And so after the play, it would be a panel of myself and other transgender people up there, and the audience would ask us questions and just different things, and getting a chance to speak our story or tell our perspectives. And after one of the panel shows, this young man, he came up to me, and I could tell that he was pre-transition, but he came up to me. He was like, you know what? He said, I want to be just like you when I grow up. I was like, really? And it took me off guard, but it made me feel good. And it made me feel good knowing, it was humbling, but it also made me feel good knowing that I was an inspiration to somebody, and hopefully an inspiration leading somebody to live their truth. Because to me, there's a lot of things that are sadder, but one of the saddest things to me in life is when somebody feels like they can't be their genuine, authentic self. They have to live, whether it be in the closet, whether it be, just not being able to come out, whether for their orientation or their gender identity or whatever, just whatever is stopping you from being your true authentic self. That has got to be a miserable life. But I know, because I used to live a life of not being able to be my authentic self, and I was miserable. So I know that person has to be miserable. So to be able to give people that gift of inspiration, or that gift of courage, that little ounce of, I can do this. If I see him doing it, I can do that. Because I once looked at somebody and said, if he can do it, I want to do that too. So it's been a great outlet for me to get off emotions that I have, or stories that I want to tell. But I feel like it's also been a great outlet for others as well, and that's really rewarding. So
yeah, dope, man, dope. So what do you have coming up?
uh,
Music, creative, what you got going on, man?
I want to start my podcast again. I got that coming. And then I'm also right now, currently, I'm working on trying to get my social media platforms up, like my Instagram following up, my TikTok following. So I'm trying to get more consistent, because my biggest thing is procrastination and inconsistency. So I'm trying to work on those two things and trying to be more just consistent and be more of a face on social media. So those are the things I want people to look out for my podcast coming soon. I think I want to revamp it. I kind of want to redo a whole new name and do a whole new thing. I'm still in the works on it, but I want to get my podcast back going and just be a better content creator.
Yeah,
So
I feel you. I feel it. I feel it. That's what's up, man. So we're gonna play a quick game before we get out of here.
okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Boxers or briefs? We're gonna play this or that. The game is this or that.
Okay. Briefs.
Boxers or briefs?
Briefs.
Briefs. Laundry or cooking?
Laundry.
Day at the spa or watching sports all day?
Day at the spa.
Beard or no beard?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Right now, I'm gonna go with no beard, but on any other day, I could go with a beard. So I like both, but right now I'll say no beard.
New shoes or new clothes?
Ooh, new clothes.
Short hair or long hair?
Long.
Like that long hair too. Sports car, or big truck,
Big truck.
big wedding or small ceremony.
Mm, big wedding.
Stay up late or sleep in.
Stay up late.
Iron or re-dry it.
Iron.
Thank you for that answer. Pay or have her pay.
Pay.
Top or bottom.
Top.
And that, my friends, is the end. Tell the people where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on Instagram, Mo_Gwap, GWAP_. You can also find me on Facebook, Mo Gwap Henderson. And you can also find me on TikTok, Gwappa, GWAPPA214.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming through. It was great talking to you. Amazing story. Wish you nothing but success in 2023 and beyond. And we looking out for more stuff from you, man. And y'all already know this is another episode of the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.
Peace.